Christine came out in 1983, directed by John Carpenter, based on the novel by Stephen King. And it was one of the early John Carpenter classics to have come out around the time of many other John Carpenter films around the time, such as The Thing, and other projects like Escape from New York. Christine starred Keith Gordon, Alexandra Paul, and John Stockwell. This movie is a classic. It's one of my favorite horror films of the early 80s, and it involves the story of a young man and his car. A love relationship, if you will. A relationship that was pretty much tainted and doomed from the start. You see, both the car and Arnie Cunningham, who Keith Gordon played, had something in common. They were both rejects. They were both messed with, they were both hurt, and they were both broken. There was a particular moment in the film when Arnie tells his friend that he feels that Christine is a car that is just as messed up as him, but he can at least fix her. Which goes to show you how he thought about himself. He buys the car off this old dude who says his brother had died just weeks prior to it. And when you see the beginning of the movie, the actual start of the film starts at the creation of the car itself in a Chrysler assembly line in 1957. It's a Plymouth Fury on the assembly line, and already accidents and deaths were associated with the making of this particular car. Apparently, other things had happened between that point and the events of 1978, which we see in this film. Arnie was a very respectful young man, right? Mama's boy, daddy's boy, wanted to just please his parents all the time, do the right thing, pass all his classes, but he was the object of ridicule and scorn at his high school. Constantly bullied, and you see the bullies, really mess with him. I mean, real tough guy stabs his lunch, like, ooh, big guy, right? Then when he gets Christine, and he fixes her up, because when they find her, it's been 20 years since the car was made, so the car is like a mess, right? A beat up mess. And he fixes her up. He changes her. And she changes him in return. Over time, a radical change happens. And the movie itself takes place starting in September of that year through the new year in California, where the setting is. Arnie hooks up with this girl named Lay, who is apparently the newest girl in school, the cutest girl in school. Everybody wants to get with her, and Arnie ends up getting with her because of his newfound personality, his newfound charisma, thanks to Christine. But Christine is jealous. Christine wants Arnie all to herself. And she shows that. She expresses that through old 50s rock and roll music during the time when she was made. It's the only music she seems to play in the radio. We start understanding later on how there is definitely a supernatural element that is unexplained in this film. And John Carpenter likes the unexplained. Another movie he did, you and I know it, Halloween in 1978, where nobody understood why Michael Myers does what he does, why he killed his sister when he was 6. As time goes on, we see what happens. And it's a tragedy from the start. If you watch this movie, you'll see what happens to Arnie. He becomes this little geek guy, but very respectable, nice guy. And he becomes something he isn't, the antithesis of who he used to be. Somebody dark, somebody evil, somebody who wishes death on all what he calls the shitters of the world, just like the previous owner used to call them. Christine is a car of a spiritual nature that's dark and foreboding, and because John Carpenter likes to capitalize, right, on the unexplained, the why. There is no why that's answered as to why Christine is, how she became that way, and why she does what she does. The car kills for Arnie. The car goes after his enemies. The car eliminates anyone who gets between Arnie and her. And I think John Carpenter appreciates what Stephen King was trying to go with that story. And what what an incredible combination of forces right there. Stephen King and John Carpenter, one of the things that drew me to this film and why it becomes, for me, one of the greatest horror films of the early 80s, and why I give this retro review 4 coffee cups to a classic film, Christine. Watch Christine. It is a good movie, and I would even dare say a movie made a little ahead of its time. If they were to make a remake of this film right now, I'd appreciate it. See what happens. Have you seen Christine? Talk to me and comment below and share with me what you think about this incredible movie that John Carpenter made back in 1983 and released, that has many people wondering, wow, what a story. So please consider subscribing, tap on that bell for future notifications for future horror and coffee content, and give me a like. Ralph Perez, Horror and Coffee. Take care.